Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Steggy again, and I'm back with yet another Disney Lorcana video. Now, in today's video, as you could probably tell from the title, I wanted to talk about what I consider to be staple cards, quote unquote, in the first chapter. And these are cards that I believe would fit into basically any deck of its corresponding color. Like, for example, here I have some amber cards. So basically, any of the amber cards that I suggest would fit into basically any amber deck. Now, I wanted to make this video because now we essentially have twice as many cards as we did just, a few days ago. The Rise of the Floodborn comes out actually in just a couple days as of the recording of this video, and just yesterday on the 13th the application was updated and we got to see all the cards, right? So we see everything, and with twice as many cards, there's so many options to put into a deck, especially if you're trying to stick around 60 cards, which you probably should. So I just wanted to talk about some cards that I think would be really good to buy as singles. So if you're starting out and say you don't want to necessarily buy like a whole booster box, but maybe you've been watching, several of these videos on YouTube. There's a ton of great, content creators who are making videos. There's people who play in person. There's people who play on like Pixelborn, online. And you might think, oh wow, Emerald and Amethyst looks really fun. Or maybe Amber and Steel, looks really powerful. I should get some of those cards. Well, I wanted to, provide this, have this video for those people who are just looking to see what singles they should buy when building their deck, and then maybe if there's some other cards you enjoy or you want to play with, you can then buy those singles and throw them in, right? Because maybe not every card is going to be for every deck, but the ones that I suggest will basically, kind of be for every deck. But let's just go ahead and dive in. As a small, not really a spoiler, but I really only have a few cards per color. So I'm just going to try to do all colors in one video and just talk about, each one just for, a few moments. So nothing too major, right? Nothing too major. Let's just dive in. Let's talk about some amber cards that I think would work very well in basically every amber deck. So just looking through the list here, I don't really have any rhyme or reason. First, I would say Hades, Lord of the Underworld, I think should be considered for basically every amber deck. He's a 4-cost uninkable character that when played, you can get a character card back from your discard pile and put that card back into your hand. And I will say that there is kind of like a loop where if you have this card in your discard pile and then you play another version or, a second copy, you can get the first copy back, put it back into your hand, and then when the new copy is banished from the, the field, goes to your discard, play that second copy, get that first one back, you just loop it, right? You can just loop it, but just being able to get characters back from your discard pile so you can play them, later is very, very good. Also, it's very affordable. TCG Player has them for about 75 cents or so. It's probably closer to $1. Actually, it might not even be, because Ariel Spectacular Singer up here is listed for $4.64. But I just looked her up and she's more like $4, roughly speaking. But so it's pretty good, right? He's very cheap. I would say he's roughly $1, maybe less. Definitely a good idea to maybe pick up a play set. Now, you might not need 4 copies in your deck, but I think running a couple copies of Hades, Lord of the Underworld, in your Amber deck is just going to benefit you. It's very, very good. Now, he might not be for everyone, right? I mean, every single deck, but he really has a lot of upsides and not that many downsides. He's just a really good card to play to get your characters back from your discard pile. He's like the only card that does that, and it's really good. So I would definitely consider picking up some Hades, Lord of the Underworld for all of your Amber decks. Alright, next up, I do want to talk about Simba Protective Cub. This is one of, actually probably one of the best 2-drops in the whole game. This guy is absolutely phenomenal because he is a bodyguard character. I talked about him in my tier list for all of the cards, and I put him very, very high. He's one of the few 2-drops that actually has a really impactful ability, I suppose. I mean, we're getting more, in Rise of the Floodborn. There's a lot of great 2-cost characters with abilities, but set 1 wise, this guy is just really good. Good early game, good late game. He's inkable, only costs 2 ink, very strong card. He can protect your turn 1 characters. He can protect your, later game characters by just playing them for 2 ink and you just exert them. Really good card. He's really cheap as well. He's probably 30 or so cents. It says 36 cents here on TCG Player. I'm just going to throw him in there. I'll throw Hades in here too. But I would definitely recommend picking up some Simbas. I'm pretty sure it would just greatly benefit your deck, right? It's just a really good turn 2 play. Next up is Be Our Guest. Be Our Guest is a really good search card for finding characters. You might not play it every game, right? And there are some games where I don't play it at all. I'll have it, like it'll be in my hand, but I end up, just inking it. But it's still a really good card to play or to have a character sing if you are looking for a character. If you do play that turn 2 Simba, on your 3rd turn, you can have Simba sing this song and then find another character that you can either ink or play on that turn. Very handy. It's very useful, very fantastic card. It's also a song, so obviously characters can sing it. We do have a Cinderella in 1 cost for Amber, only costs 1, and she can sing this song. She has Singer 3. There's a lot of payoffs for singing. It's a very strong card. It's very good. I'm pretty sure it'll be around for a long time, and you're basically guaranteed to hit a character when you play this card, like every time you use it. You would have to have a lot of non-characters in your deck for you not to be able to find one in your top 4. But it's only uncommon. You can see it's really cheap. It's actually cheaper than Simba, which is crazy because Simba's a common and this one's uncommon. But definitely pick up a playset of Be Our Guest, which is 4 copies of it. It's a very good card. Those are probably the most affordable, I should actually add that in there. These ones are very affordable. I mean, just for a couple dollars or so, you can have all these cards. This is like 12 cards for like $2 or something, maybe. It just depends on how much you pay for Hades. So maybe $6, $7. Now, if you are willing to spend a little more, I would recommend Lantern. Lantern is a really, really good card. Playing characters at a discounted, cost is super good. It's kind of like a mana rock, if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering. But if not, just by paying 2 ink, all of your future characters are going to cost 1 less ink. And this does mean you can play a 1-cost character for free by exerting Lantern first. So it is a really good card. You might not need a play set in your deck, right? Which is like 4 copies, but probably 2 copies or so, because it is uninkable, could be very useful, just like Hades, Lord of the Underworld. But a lot of decks do benefit from having Lantern in play, especially if you're doing like a ramp strategy and you're trying to get up to bigger characters faster. So I would definitely consider Lantern. It's very, very good, but it is a bit more expensive. It's probably around like $3 or so. So a play set would be $12-ish depending, right? So again, if you have that little bit, extra money and you want to spend it, this would be really good because it's going to go well in a lot of Amber decks. Now, outside of that, I do think those would be like the quote-unquote Amber staples. There are some really good nominations for like honorable mentions. Ariel Spectacular Singer. She is a little more expensive. I would recommend her, to be fair though, especially if you have a lot of songs. You would need to have, I would say, 12 songs in your deck. So that's like 4 copies of 3 different songs. That way, not only would you be able to have 1 or so in your hands a lot of the time, but Ariel would have a better chance of finding one in your top 4 cards when you play her. She is really, really good, and she's just a little bit more than Lantern, right? I did look her up. She is more like $4 right now at the time of this video, and it is Tuesday, November 14th. So now's a pretty good time to pick her up. $4 is very respectable for her. She's only going to get better as time goes on. She might even go back up in price, once more songs and stuff are unveiled. And right now, she can sing every single song in the game except for Be Prepared. So that's something to consider. She's very, very good. This might be like an honorable mention for Amber decks. Like if you have a little bit more money, Definitely probably pick up Ariel. She's inkable too. Really great card. Lilo is really good too. I do want to throw her out here. She is an honorable mention. If you're doing a more aggressive style Amber deck, Lilo is an ideal turn 1 play. But if you're not, then you can do something like a turn 1 Stitch down here, who you can see is way cheaper. Stitch is only like 10 cents, whereas Lilo's like $10 or roughly speaking. Also in the new set, we do have another 1-cost character just like Stitch, but it's the Queen. So either one would be good, right? That's a fine turn 1 play. You don't need to play Lilo, but if you do want to have a more aggressive strategy, then yeah, you can do Lilo. And then finally, the last Amber card I do want to talk about is, actually there might be two, and they're the legendaries. It's Rapunzel and Stitch. Rapunzel, gifted with healing, is a fantastic card, but I can't sit here and tell you that it is a staple card because of how expensive she is. She would definitely make your deck better, and if you do have the funds or you do have a copy or two of her and you're able to get a few more, that's gonna be fantastic. But if not, honestly, I wouldn't worry about it. Like, I'm not saying she's a win more, and I'm gonna be really truthful, she would make your deck stronger. She really is a fantastic card, but you don't need her. She's not required. We have other ways to draw cards and heal and stuff. It's just that she does everything by herself. So again, if you're able to get her, go for it, but otherwise don't worry about it. She's just way too expensive. Now, Stitch Carefree Surfer is kind of in the similar boat. He is about half the cost, whereas you can see this Rapunzel here is like $45, which is true. She's like $45, which is insane. I don't have a single copy, and I'm trying to complete a whole first set, and she's one of the 3 cards I don't have, so it hurts. Now, Stitch Carefree Surfer, you can see, is about half the cost, actually exactly half the cost at about $23. So by getting 4 Stitches, it's the same cost as getting 2 Rapunzels. Stitch is really good. If you can get up to 7 ink and you have a couple characters in play, you can draw a couple cards off of him. He is very, very strong. Is he a staple? Maybe, maybe not. I think he'll definitely make a lot of decks better, but I can't justify sitting here saying you need to buy these legendaries for a staple card in your deck. But I just want to mention them that they are very, very good, and they probably do fit into basically every Amber deck. If you happen to have them, fantastic, you throw them in there. But if not, don't worry about it. Now that I think about it, Stitch Rockstar is actually really strong too. He's definitely gone down in price. Like, I bought him for $10, $11, I think, and you can see he's dropping down to like $7, $8. So now's a good time to pick him up, because again, he's like an evergreen character, and as we get more characters that cost 2 or less, he's just going to get better. He's very strong. He can be shifted out really early, like even on turn 4 or turn 3, depending on what cards you play. Quest for 3 lore. He's very strong, so this might be a good consideration for your deck. But truthfully, I think Simba, Be Our Guest, and Hades, Lord of the Underworld should be the 3 cards you focus on for your Amber deck, and then everything else is kind of like really extra that would probably benefit it. It just depends on what strategy you're running, right? Like, for example, Ariel, Spectacular Singer, she really only shines if you have a lot of song cards, right? But if you don't, then she's not going to do a lot of the time, So, but anyway, yeah, that's what I would recommend for cards to pick up as singles. Again, I mean, if there's some cards, if there's a strategy you're going for, like healing, if you want to do like an Amber Sapphire healing deck for the second set, then stuff like the 1-cost Timon, and the 1-cost Healing Glow, and this 1-cost item Dinglehopper, those are going to be pretty good. Those are going to be pretty good pickups to help you with the heals, so you can draw more cards. Heck, even Hakuna Matata. And these are all very cheap, right? Just like 6 cents, 8 cents, Timon's 15 cents. Doesn't hurt, right? They don't hurt. You can pick up a couple commons and uncommons. Is really not a big deal. But be prepared, get Simba, pick up a couple copies of Hades, and you're looking pretty good for your Amber like core, right? It's looking pretty good. All right, that's enough ramble. Let's move on. Let's talk about, we'll do Amethyst next. So let me get rid of Amber. Now, Amethyst, there's a couple cards in here, not a ton, but a couple cards I do think are absolutely staples. I played a lot of Amethyst for the first set. Obviously, the 3-cost Maleficent, it should be a staple. She draws a card when she's played, so she replaces herself, and then she's able to sing Friends on the Other Side. Even with other cards in the second set, like Merlin Rabbit, you know, for example, who's a 4-cost, who draws a card when he enters and leaves, this Maleficent is still super good because she's inkable, and she can sing Friends on the Other Side on your following turn to get you more cards. So I still would consider picking up a playset of her. It'd be like roughly $1 for all 4 copies. She is very, very strong. Definitely put her in your deck for Amethyst, right? For Amethyst. And then, of course, since I mentioned it, Friends on the Other Side, automatic 4 copies. This card is amazing. It's a common, super cheap, right? Again, it'd be probably less than $1 actually to get these, because it's in the starter deck as well. You get like 3 copies, I think, in the Amethyst Amber starter deck. So yeah, fantastic card. Drawing cards is good. Maleficent can sing it. Your other characters, 3 cost or more, can sing it, or even like turn 1 Cinderella or Sebastian on turn 2. It's a staple. It's an Amethyst staple. Really, really good card. Now, otherwise, I did initially have Rafiki. Rafiki was another card I think I had as an Amethyst staple, but the new Madam Mim is really, really good. The Madam Mim is the same cost, and she's inkable, but you do have to return one of your characters to your hand. So that's not really that much of a downside. And the new Madam Mim has 1 more strength. I really like that new Madam Mim. Rafiki is still really good. I don't think it'd be bad to pick up a playset of him, because he was really, really good in the first set. I do think he's going to be outclassed by Madam Mim in a lot of decks, but there could be some decks that still prefer to run this Rafiki. And you should still pick him up. He's still really, really good. Madam Mim is also a rare, whereas the Rafiki here is only uncommon. He's also featured in the starter deck, so you can get a couple of copies of him there. And that's also could be why he's a little, bit more affordable. He's only like 20 cents, 15 cents, something like that. But he's still really good. He's a rush character. A lot of times you can get a 2-for-1 by taking out your opponent's like 2 strength character. And then he can sing a Friends on the Other Side on your following turn, or he can then take out another character and get a 2-for-1. Really good. He's still a really, really strong card. I definitely consider him. Now, outside of those, it really depends on what your Amethyst strategy is, because, like, say, Legendary Elsa's really good. I don't think she's, like, a staple. Again, it's the whole Rapunzel and Stitch thing. She's really good, but if you have, if you're able to get her, yeah, absolutely go for it, right? But we're mostly trying to just talk about, staple cards, more affordable cards that you can pick up and add to every deck, right? Like, I play Emerald Amethyst with, these 3 cards I mentioned from Amethyst, but I don't play Elsa, right? I don't think Elsa is in that deck. She just costs too much, and that's just a simple example. Outside of that, maybe Pascal. Pascal's definitely a good pick up. He's a fantastic turn 1 play. You get 2 Pascals in play early, and you're doing great, right? That's 2 lower turn, and it's very difficult for your opponent to deal with. But as I look through your list, maybe Befuddle. Befuddle might be a nice honorable mention. Befuddle is pretty good. Having you can pick up one of your characters as well, but you can also have your opponent pick up their Simba, and then you can challenge into their Lilo or something like that. So Befuddle is pretty good as well. Definitely like an honorable mention type of card. But I'm gonna get rid of Ariel here. Yeah, these are the, like, you should pick these up. Yeah, I like this. These are, definitely pick these cards up. But yeah, from Amethyst, I'm gonna go with those 3, and then again, you can just fill in any other cards you like. You like Ursula? Yeah, go ahead and pick up Ursula. You're a fan of Tinkerbell? Pick up Tinkerbell. Stuff like that. Like, I like this Tinkerbell. Of course, I like the Street Rat format, and I like Amethyst, and she's just really good. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. We're gonna go to Emerald. Now, Emerald-wise, there's a couple cards here. I do think that the 2-cost Flynn Rider should be a staple, and you can see it's reflected. This guy is over $1 per card. He is very good. He is a very good turn 2 play. he's getting at least one card out of your opponent. It's probably going to be one. Your opponent has to either use like Fire the Cannons, or they have that new song card, Let the Storm Rage On, Grab Your Swords, a character challenge, you know, whatever. But they're going to lose a card. You're going to gain 2 lore, at least 2 lore, maybe even more. He can be shifted onto if that's something you want to do as well, because there is a new shift Flynn Rider in the second set. But really, he's inkable. He's a fantastic turn 2 play. I think he's just a staple in every Emerald deck, no matter what you're doing, right? You're going to be aggressive, you want to do discard, whatever you want to do. Even in like the damage strategy, this is a very good turn 2 play. He's just super good. Pick up 4 copies of Flynn Rider for your Emerald decks. Who else did I have on here? Probably the cat. I think the cat was another... did I pass him? Yeah, here he is. The cat. Cheshire Cat is, I also think, a staple in Emerald. Now, obviously, the turn 3 slot is very coveted, depending on what deck you're playing, especially like Emerald Amethyst, where there's so many good turn 3 plays. But playing the cat is fantastic. One, he does have a shift target, like, or not shift target, but he has a Floodborn in the second set, so this one can be shifted onto. He quests for 2 lore. And if he is challenged and banished, your opponent is going to lose the character that they use to banish this guy with. So you're getting at least 1 card off of your opponent. You're going to get 2 lore. He is inkable. He's a really good card, right? And you can see it is, again, reflected in price. The guy is over $1, just like Flynn Rider. He is a fantastic turn 2 play in Emerald. Even now, he definitely should be considered, but there are a lot of upcoming really good turn 3 cards, right? We got the new Arthur as well in Amethyst, if you are playing Emerald Amethyst, but this guy cannot be ignored. This is a really good card. I think he is really, really good. Now, is there... Oh, there is another card, Mother Knows Best. I do think Mother Knows Best belongs in, like, every Emerald deck. I swear by this card. It is very, very good. You can just have your turn 3 character sing it. Your opponent's going to lose a character. It sets them back a turn. It's really good early game, right? It is very, very good. It is pretty decent later on if your opponent plays a character and they can just quest with that character to win. As long as it doesn't have ward, you can just bounce that card right back to your opponent's hand and buy yourself a turn. I really like it. It's very affordable too. You can see it's only like, you know, 10, 12 cents or so. Definitely pick up a playset. It's a very good card. There are some other turn 3 Emerald plays or 3 cost Emerald plays like Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. And oh shoot, what's it called? It's not Dinner Bell. It's the new 3 cost card where you can banish an opposing damaged character. And I'm actually going to look that up real quick because otherwise that would very much bother me. Here it is right here. Ring the Bell. So Ring the Bell is an upcoming 3 cost card. It's not a song, but it's still a 3 cost, you know, action card. And that's kind of what Mother Knows Best is like competing with. But Mother Knows Best is also a song. So I think it's really good. I definitely think you should pick up, you know, a playset. Maybe not add like all 4 copies to your deck, depending on what you're playing. But definitely at least 2 copies. It really is a very strong card. Very, very good. Now, outside of those 3, you could probably argue Kuzco is an Emerald staple, and he probably arguably is, but he's $10 a card. So again, it's just the price thing. If you're able to get Kuzcos, I would 100% pick up Kuzco. I think he's still going to be amazing, even in the second set. There really isn't a better turn 5 play than Kuzco. He's just absolutely amazing. We do have other 5 cost characters in the new set as well, but it's really hard to compete with 3 lore, ward, the same effect as Cheshire Cat. It's why he's still $10. He really is a great card. So I will say, if you're able to pick him up, definitely do it. A little different than, say, Ariel. I do think Kuzco belongs in basically every Emerald deck. It's just that he's $10 a card. Again, if you're able to get him, go for it. But if not, it's not a big deal. There are some really good other 5 cost cards like Mad Hatter. Mad Hatter is a very, very good card. He's not even like a budget Kuzco. I think that the two of them together are very, very good. I don't think like Mad Hatter can replace Kuzco, but I mean Kuzco is just the king of the 5-drops. But if you can't get Kuzco, definitely pick up Mad Hatter if like you only want to play like one Emerald 5-drop or something, right? This guy is really, really good. There are some really good 5-drops in the second set as well. There's an evasive 3 lore character, and there's also Tiana, who has 5 strength but no other abilities. I'd rather run the Mad Hatter for the card draw, and your opponent has to either use like Dragonfire or some form of removal on him, or they're going to get some cards, right? Just by challenging him. Or you will get some cards. So he's very cheap. You can see he's like 15 cents. He's in the starter deck for Emerald and Ruby. This guy is pretty good. I would probably say that Mad Hatter deserves to be a staple in Emerald, because he's kind of taking the place of Kuzco, right? If you can get Kuzco, take out your Mad Hatters. If you can't get Kuzco, definitely pick up Mad Hatter. But if you're feeling frisky, do both, right? I play both. So they're really good. And I do want to mention Genie on the Job. This guy is absolutely phenomenal. I swear by this card. I know a lot of people really like John Silver. Some people play Mother Best. I'm sorry, Mother Gothel. John Silver is really, really good. You can see he's a bit more expensive. He's like $15-ish, $16. Genie is not. Genie is really affordable at only like $2. So you can pick up a playset of him for less than $10. He really is a fantastic card. He's like Mother Knows Best, but he has 2 lore and he's evasive. Really, really good. You will not regret playing him. There are a lot of characters with come into play effects. So something like the new Lady Tremaine, which when she's played, your opponent needs to banish a character. That's going to be a little rough to have, pick up to your opponent's hand. But there's still a lot of characters that don't have come into play effects. Maybe something like the new Cinderella. She doesn't have a come into play effect. You can just have your opponent pick her up, and then you don't have to worry about her for a turn or two. Really good card. I almost want to say he's like a quote-unquote staple, but I would definitely... He's so affordable. Like, you almost should pick him up. He really is a really good card for Emerald. I swear, yeah, you won't be disappointed. I love him. And he's affordable. That might be like my core, like these belong in every Emerald deck cards. Tinkerbell's pretty good. The 4-cost Tinkerbell, if you're doing a more aggro strategy, wherever she went to, she's affordable too, about $0.25 per card. She's solid, right? Very good card. I do like this. I do like this 4-cost Tinkerbell, but it just depends on your deck, right? It just depends on your deck. All right, let's go ahead and move on now. Let's talk about Ruby staples. Now, this one doesn't have like a ton. I do think Maui, unfortunately, is a staple card. He is a bit more expensive, and this is one of the cards where I think hurts the most for me to recommend. But this guy, he really is that good. He is a top 10 card. He's not terrible. You can get a playset for, a little less than $15. There really isn't a replacement for him. He has Rush and Reckless. This guy is really, really good. Again, it pains me, but he is a fantastic card, right? He really is fantastic. He's not terrible price-wise. He's probably around like $3-ish, maybe less. I need to pick up a couple copies. As a fun note, I actually opened every version of him from a booster box. I was lucky enough to get an enchanted, and then I have a foil version, which I traded, and then I have a non-foil version. So I got every copy of him. So that's just crazy, right? It was just crazy. But he is really good. He is a very, very good card. He makes every Ruby deck better. He's crazy. He's absolutely crazy. Dragonfire. I think Dragonfire should be in every Ruby deck as well. It's just spot removal for 5 ink. It's not inkable. It's not a song. But it's unconditional, just straight up banish chosen character. It's not like Let It Go, where your opponent's getting an extra ink. It's not like Mother Knows Best, where your opponent can just play that character on their following turn. That character is gone, unless your opponent plays like Hades or something. I like this card. It's affordable, it's in the starter deck. You can see it's only like 20 cents. Roughly, you can probably pick up a whole playset for $1. And the foil version of this card is amazing. Just as a side note, it looks really, really good. But yeah, definitely I would say for Ruby, definitely get Dragonfire. It is a very, very good card. Are those two the main? That's a little, yeah, those two might be the main. Gaston is actually pretty solid. The 2-cost Gaston, he definitely makes your opponent not want to quest. If they have a turn 1 2/2 character like the Queen or Stitch or Sergeant Tibbs or something, they'll probably quest with that character. But if not, if they don't have, like if they have Captain Hook, Olaf, the new Flynn Rider, Minnie Mouse, whatever, they're not questing. They're going to lose that character. Even a turn 2 character, Gaston's going to take them out. He's a beast. Definitely would consider him for your turn 2 slot in your Ruby deck. He is pretty good. Maybe I'll throw him in there, actually. Like, you should, yeah, maybe you should pick him up. I do really like him. I think he's really good, and just helps control that early game. Now, as an honorable mention, you should pick up Aladdin Heroic Outlaw. The guy is super cheap. You can see he's like only like $1, because again, he is in the starter deck. He's fantastic. He is super good. I considered him a top 10 card, and you can see how affordable he is. This guy is crazy. Now, you probably are playing the smaller Aladdin, so you can shift onto the big guy. But if you're playing Ruby, you might be leaning into this strategy anyway. But I would recommend him for sure. Yeah, he is super good. I'm actually going to add him onto the list as what I consider a staple, because if I'm playing Ruby, the 2 cards that I think of when I think of Ruby is Aladdin Heroic Outlaw and Maui Hero to All. That's what I think about. And then I think Dragonfire, and then by extension Be Prepared. I love Be Prepared. I think you should probably play it in your Ruby deck, but he is a bit, but it's a bit more expensive. It's like $5 a card. For 20 bucks, you can get a playset, and if you want to spend $20 for a playset, I say absolutely go for it. This card is really, really good. It's the only like conditional, unconditional board wipe in the game. It does remove every character, including your own, but still really, really good card. Definitely should add it to your Ruby deck, at least a couple copies, if you're able to. Outside of that, I think that's probably it. Maybe Pongo. Pongo is definitely a good consideration. Fantastic 4-drop, inkable, evasive, quest for 2 lore. He's really strong. He's pretty good. It just depends on what you're playing, though, because you might have other 4-drops. If you're playing Ruby and Amethyst, you could be playing the Rabbit, right? Or Merlin, like the Goat or something like that. You might not have room for Pongo, but, he's there. It's an option. He's pretty good. Stuff like Maleficent, she costs a lot. It just depends on what your deck is. If you can safely get to 9 ink in most of your games, yeah, she's super good. You should definitely, pick her up. Add her to your deck if you're playing Ramp. If you're playing Ruby Amethyst, Amber Ruby, whatever. If you can get to 9 ink, she's really good, right? She's very good, but I don't think she's like a staple. Especially when she's like $20-some. But I definitely, she's good. She's definitely a good card. Again, 9 ink is that's just a lot. That's a lot to get to. And the legendary Mickey Mouse you can see he's not too bad, right? $14 or so for a legendary is really good. We thought this guy was just absolutely amazing when he first came out, but as time, goes on, we have like bounce mechanics, like a 6-cost genie would just have you pick this guy up and you lose several turns, because you'd have to pay the ink to put him back into play and then wait a whole turn to even start questing with him. So, but he's really good. He's definitely like a help seal the game type of card. So he's not too bad at, $15 or so. But I don't think he's a staple. I think these guys are staple. Gaston, I think, is really good. It definitely Maui Hero to All, Aladdin Heroic Outlaw, Dragonfire, and Be Prepared, I think should be definitely considered for every Ruby deck. Yeah, I think those are fantastic Ruby cards. All right, we only got 2 more colors left. We'll talk about Sapphire. Now, in Sapphire, we'll do probably the easy one first, which is Let It Go. Because you need removal. Sapphire offers removal, and Sapphire offers kind of like permanent removal. Whereas where Dragonfire the character goes to the discard pile, and your opponent can just play Hades and get that character back, you can't get anything back from your Inkwell. Once it's there, it's gone. At least for right now, but I don't really see that. I don't really see that changing in the future, unless, for example, there's some way for you to like destroy your inkwell or destroy your opponent's inkwell. Not the whole thing, just like a card or something. And then that card happens to be a character, which then you can get back from your discard pile. But outside of that, like right now, there's no way to get that card back. You are ramping your opponent. You're giving them more ink. If you target a shifted character, they're getting 2 ink. But it's better than having that character on the field, right? Your opponent can have 1 card in hand. It's late game. They have a really scary shifted character into play. You hit it with Let It Go, right? It could be their Stitch Rockstar. Hit it with Let It Go, and you're still looking good. What are they going to play, right? So really good card. It's removal for Sapphire. Whenever I play Sapphire, I literally put 4 copies of Let It Go into the deck before I start adding other cards. That's what I do. And that's kind of my process of like cards I suggest is I'm like, okay, what cards do I immediately add to this deck of this color? And then I just go from there. And that's what I'm doing here. So Let It Go is one of those cards where, you know, I add to the deck. Another one I do add is Develop Your Brain. Now I will say, I think that in the second set, we do have stuff like Popsicle, which is a 1-drop item that's also a common, and when you play that card, you can draw a card. That is actually pretty good. That's a really strong card. It might replace Develop Your Brain, but Develop Your Brain is really good for helping like smooth out your curve. It's a really good draw later in the game where maybe you have a ton of ink and you can play Develop Your Brain, and that way you can then choose which of those 2 cards would better benefit you in that specific scenario. Like maybe you're looking for your Be Prepared or your Grab Your Sword or, you know, your Tinkerbell or something to help with the board. Develop Your Brain can help you find that card a little easier than you just straight up drawing a card. It is affordable. It's very cheap, like 5 cents or so a card. So I would say that it's definitely a staple, quote unquote, at least for set 1. Probably Popsicle is going to replace it, but I still think there's a home for this in many Sapphire decks, maybe even in the same deck, because it is card draw. It does replace itself, but it replaces itself with 1 of 2 cards that you get to choose. And it is inkable, so, you know, later or mid-game or so, if you don't need it, you can always just ink it. You got 2 in your opening hand, just ink the first one and then play the second, right? But I still think it's a really solid Sapphire card that deserves to be like a quote-unquote staple for Sapphire, you know, cards to pick up. Another one I do want to mention is Robin Hood. If I mentioned the Genie and Heroic Outlaw Aladdin, I do want to mention Robin Hood. So Robin Hood is actually incredibly affordable. You can see that he's like $1.50 or so for a super rare. In consideration, not in consideration, but in comparison, you got stuff like Giant Fairy Tinkerbell, who's like $10 a card, who is also a super rare, right? This guy is still pretty good. He does replace himself, and with all of the card draw that we're getting in the second set, more decks are going to have more cards in hand, right? So there's a good chance that by playing him, your opponent is going to have more cards in their hand, so you can draw a card. He is evasive, and there are a lot of evasive characters in the second set, and he's going to be able to challenge all of them. He is really good. Off the top of my head, I don't think there's any character with 5 willpower who's evasive. I think the new Dr. Facilier only has 4 evasive, and I'm actually going to check right now, same as I did before, just to show that this guy is really solid. Dr. Facilier he has 4. Yeah, so Robin Hood would trade with him, but that's still pretty good, right? I think that's still definitely worth it, especially because Robin Hood drew you a card when he was played. And since he's really cheap, and, you know, he's a Sapphire card, I would consider him a staple, in my opinion. I always add Robin Hood. Now, especially because Sapphire didn't really have card draw, Develop Your Brain and Robin Hood were kind of the card draw that Sapphire offered. And then there was stuff like Maurice, but that was hard to pull off. You'd have to have a ton of ink, maybe not even a ton, but maybe like 7 ink or so. You'd have to play Maurice. No, that wouldn't work. I don't know what I was thinking. You need to have Maurice in play for a whole turn and then start questing. Oh no, I take that back. I'm sorry. I read it backwards. If you had like 7 ink, you could play Maurice and then play like your Magic Golden Flower and you could draw a card. So you're like, okay, like you're getting something, I guess, right? But it's so conditional and it costs so much ink. It just wasn't, it's not ideal. So Robin Hood, Develop Your Brain. They help you draw cards. Very solid. I will say, since we're talking about Sapphire, what Sapphire really likes to do is ramp. There are no better cards that ramp than, say, Mickey Mouse Detective, right? You play them, you get 1 extra ink. Super handy, super great. You basically skip your 4 cost turn, and like on your following turn, when you ink, now you can play 5 cost characters, which is super good because there's some really good 5 cost characters and 5 cost actions like Let It Go. So I think Mickey Mouse should be a Sapphire staple. I do know that there is a new Winnie the Pooh card who's an inkable 3 cost who can quest for 2 lore. He has 1 more strength and I think 1 more willpower, and he's a rare, but he only ramps you when he quests, and it is a card from your hand. At least with Mickey Mouse, you're just taking an unknown card from the top of your deck and putting it into your inkwell, which saves the cards in your hand. If you're able to draw a lot of cards, the other one, like Winnie the Pooh, might be better, but I'm still a big advocate for this Mickey Mouse. Like, you just play him, you get the ink, and then he can sing songs or he can quest or challenge or something. So, and you know, your opponent could play, or you could play Winnie the Pooh and your opponent can just remove him and you don't get the ramp. So, but with him, you at least get the ramp. But I think he's a Sapphire staple. He's a fantastic turn 3 play. There's nothing wrong with having more ink. And again, it's just off the top of your deck. So you know, you have no idea what it is. To ease your mind, and someone else mentioned this before, and this is how I think about it. You can just think that the card you take from Mickey Mouse was on the bottom of your deck and you weren't going to see it anyway. So that's how I think about it. Outside of those, I think those are the quote-unquote like staple cards for Sapphire. I'd probably, yeah, those 3: Mickey Mouse, Develop Your Brain, Let It Go, and then probably Robin Hood. Robin Hood's on the bottom, but I would still include Robin Hood. I would say if you're building a Sapphire deck, I think all those cards belong in there. There are some really good cards that you can add to make it better. Hades, Inferno Schemer, would definitely make that better, but again, I can't justify this legendary. He's very expensive. He's like $23, $24 or so. I think he's more like 23 because I looked him up, because I want some of these guys, because I'm interested in Sapphire and Steel, as always. That's like my favorite color combination, and I only have 1 of him. So it's like, do I want to spend like $100 to get a play set? I don't know. Right? I don't know, but he's really good. He's Let It Go, but on a body. He's very solid. I really like Aurora Dreaming Guardian for giving your characters ward, which is going to be really handy for this upcoming set. So that way cards like Dinner Bell, not Dinner Bell, shoot, the Emerald card we just talked about, and I completely forgot its name. Your opponent can't target it. Your opponent can't use Dragonfire. They can't use Let It Go. Pretty good, right? It's pretty good. I still really like her. She can come out turn 3. You can be really aggressive and start questing or challenging if you want. Yes, you might be thinking, but there's a new Cogsworth. And it's like, would you rather give your characters ward, or would you rather give your characters resist +1? And that, you know, that's how I think about it. But you can see that she's less than $1. So for $4, you can pick up a playset. It doesn't hurt, that's for sure. Now, I still think she's really solid. I think she's still a really solid card. Grandma Tala, if you want to do some ramp for your turn 2 play, you don't have like a lot you want to do, Grandma Tala is solid. Really cheap. Definitely add her in there if you want to do more of a ramp strategy. Belle is too expensive and she's not for every deck. I wouldn't put Belle. The 5 cost Maleficent. She's less than $1. Definitely something to consider, especially if you're playing Mickey Mouse and you're trying to be aggressive. She has fantastic stats. 6 willpower is amazing. And she quests for 3 lore. So if you do play that turn 3 Mickey Mouse and you follow it up then by on your next turn inking a card and then playing Maleficent, you're looking pretty good. There's like 1 card that would stop you from your opponent, and that's like Let It Go. Not Let It Go, I'm sorry. That would be like Mother Knows Best. Unless your opponent is doing like some crazy shenanigans, like they play a turn 3 Stitch, or turn 2 the queen now from set 2, and then they play Let It Go, or whatever. But outside of that, she's really good, right? So maybe I would put her up here. Definitely a very high consideration, especially because she's less than $1, really affordable. She's a really good card. I think that's about it. Actually, I do want to mention Eye of the Fates is a very strong, like, honorable mention. This is a very good card. You can gain 1 lore instantly, not instantly, but on the turn you play it, as long as you have a character who can quest. So really not too bad. It turns cards like Grandma Tala and Mickey Mouse into 2 lore questers, and now your opponent can't ignore them, especially like Grandma Tala. Now your opponent's like, well, I either give my opponent 1 extra ink by taking out Grandma Tala, or I ignore it and they're just going to gain 2 lore a turn. And I've done that. And I have been in that situation where you're like, hey opponent, deal with my Grandma Tala, or I'm going to gain 2 lore a turn. Really good card though. I think this is a really good underappreciated card of the first set. Just by gaining, you can just gain 1 lore just when you play it. And it's an item and it's stackable. So if you get multiple of these in play, that's looking pretty good. And I think the absolute last card I do want to just briefly talk about is One Jump Ahead. It is a good ramp card. You could do something like play Grandma Tala on your following turn, have Grandma Tala sing One Jump Ahead, then you play Mickey Mouse and gain an extra ink. Your opponent could take out Grandma Tala, and then you gain 1 more ink, and now you're sitting at like, what, 6 ink or something? Just bonus without inking anything from your hand. So that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. So in a ramp style deck, a One Jump Ahead definitely isn't terrible. It's also a song that could be sung by, say, like Ariel and found by Ariel. But if not, I'd rather play Grandma Tala, right? If you're not really aiming to ramp, Grandma Tala is a good inkable card. Can be, when she's banished, that she can be placed into your inkwell as well. So definitely not bad. I don't think she's like a staple. Maybe like a good consideration. I'll put her up here. She's still really good. All right, let's talk about our final color, which is Steel. Really like Steel. So if you are playing Steel, first I would say get the Beast. The Beast is really, really good. However, I do want to add a caveat here. So, and this is something I do want to talk about like right now as we're talking about staples. There is a card right here. This is Benja. Benja is a 3-cost inkable who has 2 strength, 3 willpower, quests for 2 lore, and when he's played, you may banish chosen item. So if we're playing the Beast who does the same thing, it looks like to put the set 2 first. Here we go. So the Beast is a 5-cost inkable character. Higher strength, 4 strength, 4 willpower, still quests for 2, and has the same effect as Benja. This is sad, because initially, when I made the list and stuff before, because I wrote all this out a while ago, I said, hey, add 4 copies of the Beast. He is a staple card for Steel because he breaks items. When he's played, he's also inkable, and he can quest for 2 lore. But Benja here, Benja does literally all of that, but he's 2 ink cheaper. How can I justify saying, hey, get the Beast hard-headed, when you could just play Benja and for the exact same effect? You're playing Beast for his effect, just play Benja. I will say, though, that the Beast is a 5-cost, which does let him sing stuff like Let It Go and like Grab Your Sword in A Whole New World. So if that's important to you, if you want a character who can do that, and maybe you need more in your 5 slot, your 5 slot, play the Beast hard-headed. Definitely a Steel staple. If you don't need a character to sing stuff like Grab Your Sword, then Benja is just better. Benja is just clearly better in basically every way. And still questing for 2, he's better, right? Since ideally you are playing that character to banish one of your opponent's items so they can't use it, like you break their magic mirror or their pocket watch, or maybe you, break their popsicle so they can't heal anything, just whatever, right? Just for example. So this one's weird. Like it's weird to talk about because it's like, hey, there is a card who does it better. And that's not the only thing too. There's an emerald card. Since we're briefly on the subject here, let me turn off Steel. So here's Jumba, 5 cost, 4 strength, 5 willpower, quest for 2, inkable, right? And in the new set, we have, oh, I turned it off. You might know, you might not know. This is a bit of a tangent. It's just, it's not a, it's power creep. There's Vivian, who has 1 more strength in the same cost, and she's common. She's a villain and a queen. She has better classification. She's just better than Jumba in literally every way. So it's sad, right? It's just why play Jumba now? You know, Jumba was a fun budget, maybe budget alternative, but no, just play this common card. It's just better. So, and unfortunately, we kind of see that in Steel right now with Benja and the Beast, but that's only for, I guess, playing that effect. But we're gonna get back on track from my little bit of rambling. The Beast is still really good. You still get the break-in item when he's played, and again, he can sing Grab Your Sword, or, you know, Whole New World, or Let It Go, or something. So if that's important, yeah, definitely go for him. I think the 1-cost Captain Hook is definitely an auto-include for all Steel decks. He's absolutely incredible as a turn 1 play. You can see he's really cheap at like 10 cents a card, despite the fact that he's just hugely popular, right? Really good turn 1 play. He trades way up. Your opponent isn't going to want to quest with anything because they're just going to lose that character. He also scares like stuff like Olaf or the new Flynn Rider or Minnie Mouse or Hey Hey. Anything with 1 strength because they can't get through his 2 willpower. He's really good turn 1. He's also inkable, so if you draw him later or you have more copies, you can just throw 1 into your ink. Then I do want to say Prince Eric, I think, is a fantastic Steel card. He is Captain Hook, but better, right? Just better because he has 1 more willpower, so he is able to take out all those turn 1 characters with like 2 strength and 2 willpower and survive, and then ideally, you know, fight something or challenge something on your following turn. So I would consider both Captain Hook and Prince Eric as staples for Steel. It does depend on what your strategy is. You could be playing Amber Steel, but want to do a more Lilo and Simba approach. But I do feel that the Captain Hook and Prince Eric, you know, approach is very strong and should definitely not be underestimated. They're both inkable, fantastic cards. They're commons. It'll be less than $1 to get 4 copies of each. So Tinkerbell is expensive, right? Tinkerbell is very expensive. So I'm not going to say she's a staple in Steel decks. But if you want to play Steel, Tinkerbell is really good. So it's just like, it's so weird. She's like $12, $13 a card or so. You should play Tinkerbell. I do think she's absolutely fantastic. Now, I know in the new set, there is Resist. There's, like, for example, the new Cogsworth completely shuts down Tinkerbell's come into play effect, right? But not everybody is going to play Cogsworth unless, say, they want to really counter Amber Steel. So it's very possible that for like first couple major tournaments, we see Sapphire played a lot for the Cogsworth. So stuff like Grab Your Sword and Let It Go, not Let It Go, I'm sorry, Tinkerbell and Grab Your Sword don't hurt as much. So that might be a thing, I don't know. Plus there's the new Cinderella, who is in Steel, and some people might be like, I'm gonna play Cinderella instead of Tinkerbell. So maybe she'll go down in price, but I swear by her, I think she's the second best card in the first set, just right below Rapunzel. She's super good, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you to spend like $50 for a playset of Tinkerbells. That's crazy, right? But if you get Tinkerbells, throw her in your Steel deck. That's what I would say. Outside of those two, Beast Mirror, duh. Beast Mirror, definitely should put it in your deck. There are times where you're just going to run out of cards, or you get really low. Having a Beast Mirror in play means that you can essentially draw an extra card a turn. Now, provided that you have enough ink, and that, say your curve for your deck, like the highest cost character in your deck is, say, 6 ink. As long as you have like 9 ink in play, then basically you can use Beast Mirror with no cards in hand and then instantly play whatever card you draw. And that's pretty nice, right? That's a nice, idea, nice feeling. But it is inkable, so if you don't need it, you can just throw it into your inkwell. But it's very cheap. You can see it's 15 cents. It's really good. It is extra card draw for Steel, which Steel definitely needed in the first set. And even with the new set 2 cards coming out, I still think that Beast Mirror should be included in your Steel deck. because you might run out of cards. You might be up against, I don't know, like an Emerald discard deck as well. I know there's stuff like Grab Your, not Grab Your Sword, a Whole New World. Whole New World can, refill your hand, also refills your opponent's hand. You can just aim, or bet on that your opponent plays this card instead, and then you kind of do your own thing, which, is good, right? I mean, that way you play out your cards, and then your opponent can give you a whole bunch of new cards, and if you're inking stuff, then, you're looking pretty good. But I can't say this one's a staple either, because it's very expensive, $8, $9 or so a card. That's pretty expensive, right? That's quite a bit. It is good. It is a very good card, but just let your opponent play it on you. Play Beast Mirror though. Beast Mirror is good. Inkable, lets you draw some extra cards. I definitely like it. And the final card I might say should be a quote unquote staple is probably Smash. Smash is just straight deal 3 damage to something. Now, it is inkable, and there is a new card in the second set called, it's a song card. It's like Let the Storm Rage On. Again, same cost, but it does 2 damage, and you get to draw a card. So the trade-off is, for Smash, you deal 1 extra damage to a character. It's a straight 3 damage, and this card is inkable, but it's not the song, versus the new 3-cost action card, which is a song, but it's not inkable, and it only does 2 damage, but you get to draw a card. I guess it's matter of A, personal preference, and B, if you want more uninkables in your deck. But I do think that Smash is really good with its 3 damage. Playing Grab Your Sword and then Smash does allow you to take out 5 willpower characters, and there are a lot of 5 willpower characters, whereas Let the Storm Rage On plus Grab Your Sword isn't going to let you do that. At most, you get to draw an extra card. I think Smash should be included in your steel decks. It is very good. It is inkable. It's removal. It's super handy, right? And you can your opponent can play Aerial, and then on your following turn, you can hit it with Smash, and now they can't sing the song that they found, or any song, right? Now they're set back. So it's pretty good, but you can't do that with other cards. Yeah, I think those are all the... No, I take that back. Grab Your Sword should be a staple. Grab Your Sword should be a staple in steel cards. It's not terrible. If I said Maui is a staple, then Grab Your Sword should be too. It's actually a little cheaper than this because I was actually looking. I need one more Grab Your Sword personally, and it's more like $1.99. It's like $2. So I mean, it's like $2. So I guess it is around that price. It is in the starter deck, and this price has gone down a lot. Like, I'm pretty sure this card was up near $15 or so, and now it's only like $2. Definitely pick it up. It does 2 damage to all of your opponent's characters, which is fantastic, and it's the only card that just damages all of your opponent's stuff outside of, say, Tinkerbell, right? So it's kind of like removal. You could, play your Tinkerbell and then have Tinkerbell sing this, which is 3 damage to all of your opponent's characters. That's pretty good. So for about $10 or so, you can get a playset of Grab Your Sword. And I think that's definitely worth it. This is a very, very strong steel card. And with that being said, I'm pretty sure that is my list of all the steel staples and all the cards which I would consider to be, a staple for each color. So can I actually sort this by... Here we go. I'll actually, just to review, I'm just going to click all these so it just looks nice. A review for Amber, we have 3 cards. Simba, Protective Cub, belongs in every deck, every Amber deck. Hades, at least a couple copies of Hades, Lord of the Underworld, because I do think that recursion is super good. And of course, Be Our Guest should be included in, basically every Amber deck. And I probably should add Stitch New Dog. And the reason why I want to add Stitch New Dog as I think about it, is because even if you don't play the Rockstar Stitch, your opponent doesn't know that. It's going to be like the Queen, where your opponent doesn't know if you're playing the other Queen, the bigger one. So probably just a really good turn 1 play if you're not doing Lilos, right? Again, Lilo is the honorable mention for Amber, but yeah, pick up your copies of your 4 copies of Stitch and just play mind games with your opponent. Now, again, moving on to Amethyst, Friends on the other. 3-cost Maleficent, still a staple. Even with all the new cards. Friends on the Other Side, going to be a staple for a very, very long time. Singable, right? Singable, buy your turn 3 Maleficent. I mean, you can turn 3 Maleficent, turn 4 Sing Friends on the Other Side, ink something, then play your Merlin Rabbit and draw more cards, right? That's insane. That's so much card draw. And then of course Rafiki, but Rafiki might be replaced by something like Madame Mim the Fox, but Madame Mim's a rare and Rafiki is not. Rafiki is very affordable. So, but I still think Rafiki is very strong. He is uninkable, or Madame Mim is not. Again, it's like, you know, back and forth. But definitely these two. I think these two, Maleficent and Friends on the Other Side, definitely make up the, like, you got to get those cards for your Amethyst deck. Definitely staples. For Emerald, 2-cost Flynn Rider. The guy's amazing, right? Your opponent's going to lose a card to get him off the field one way, shape, or form. Cheshire Cat, right? The cat, as I love to call him. He's 3-cost. He's inkable. Your opponent has to deal with him and lose the character, or you're just going to slowly gain 2 lore. Makes a really good target for turn 3 or turn 4 Friends on the Other Side as well. Or can sing Mother Knows Best, right? Because then he'll be exerted. Yeah, speaking of Mother Knows Best, Emerald staple, pick up your copies. I think it's really good. At least a couple copies, but a playset doesn't hurt. And with the new Emerald discard strategies, have your opponent pick up their character, and then you just have them discard some cards, and they might end up discarding that character. So that's looking pretty good. Mad Hatter, super good, affordable, 5-cost inkable card, especially if you don't have Kuzco. Because remember, I think you should play Kuzco in all Emerald decks. I would consider him a quote-unquote staple, but he's $10 a card, and that's just way too much for me to recommend you just go out and spend $40 on a staple card. But the Mad Hatter is really good. Mad Hatter is a really good 5-cost card who probably should be in most, if not all, Emerald decks, especially if you don't have Kuzco. I'm a big fan of Genie on the Job. He's very affordable, as we saw. He's like $2 a card or so, maybe even less. Returns one of your opponent's characters to their hand, or even your character, I guess, if you need to do that. And he's evasive and quest for 2, right? So pretty good. I really like him. Ruby, 2-cost Gaston, really good, right? Inkable, scares your opponent's early game characters. It's way above his ink cost. He's a beast, right? Super good. Can also take out Kuzco as well in one shot, so that's pretty good. 5-cost Maui, probably the most expensive staple on the list at about $3, but he's so good that he needs to be included. If he was a little more, like maybe $5-ish, I probably would say, maybe not. That's $20, right? That's a lot. He's super good. Super good, inkable. He's removal on a body, rush, and reckless. Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you very much. Fantastic stats. This is a good card. I do think Aladdin Heroic Outlaw, if you are playing Ruby, you should play this guy. One of the top 10 cards, just like Maui here. Aladdin's fantastic, especially when you shift him out turn 5. You know, you steal some lore from your opponent, you gain some lore, huge swing, fantastic card. I think he should be a staple in like all Ruby decks. Dragonfire, what's to say? It's 5-cost removal, just straight up banish the character. Super good. And of course, Be Prepared. A little more expensive, right? But if you're able to get Be Prepared, you know, I say go for it. Unconditional removal, everything on the field is gone. You could even have a 7-cost character sing it, like your Heroic Outlaw Aladdin, if that's something you need to do. You could be playing against a deck that's just swarming the field, all these tiny characters. You play Aladdin, shifted Aladdin turn 5, and have him sing Be Prepared, and you're back in it, right? So Be Prepared's a good card. In Sapphire, Grandma Talo was like a late add. I don't know if she's necessarily a true Sapphire staple, but she's very good, right? I think she is very good. Definitely a very high on the consideration list. She's like flirting with like not necessarily an honorable mention, but definitely probably should be included. Same as like Maleficent. Maleficent's super good. 3 lore, great willpower, inkable. You can play her the turn after you play Mickey Mouse. So yeah, Grandma Talo, I'm like, Maleficent, you should probably add. Maleficent's super good. Mickey Mouse, one of like the best turn 3 play for Sapphire. It gets you closer to your higher costed characters, and he's just good. Extra ink is good. He's a good card. He's a common. Develop Your Brain, again, good for card draw. You can choose one of the top 2 cards of your deck. It's inkable. Might be replaced by Popsicle in the coming set. and especially, you know, in the upcoming metagame and stuff, but definitely should still be considered. Finally, Let It Go. We need that removal. This one's removal. It's a song. It's inkable. Yeah, you're giving your opponent an extra ink or two, but regardless, you're getting a character off the field that could help them win the game. So it's good, right? Definitely a good card. A bit more expensive though, unfortunately. I don't think I talked about it now that I think about it, because it's like $4 or $5. So I guess this would be like $20 for a playset, but it's needed, right? I think that this is definitely like a very much, you need this card for a Sapphire. Yeah, you need the removal. It's super good. It's rough. Like, it pains me to say spend $20 for 4 cards, but if you do want to play Sapphire, I would pick up Let It Go. And then finally in Steel, 1 cost Captain Hook. Probably the best 1 cost in the game. Well, in the first sets, but maybe, you know, maybe even into the second set. Although we do have that new Ruby card who has 3 strength and 1 willpower, but it's reckless. So I don't know, you know, I don't know. 2 cost Prince Eric, same as same as Captain Hook, but 1 extra willpower. So really good turn 2 play, you know, just demolishes a lot of stuff and survives. Beast, hard-headed. Again, we talked about the Beast. I went on a little bit of a ramble because we do have that new Benja card who does the same thing for 2 less ink, but Beast is still really good for singing stuff like Grab Your Sword or Whole New World or Let It Go, or, you know, whatever, right? If you have some higher costed songs, he can still sing it. It just depends on your deck, right? The Beast might be better or Benja might be better, but still, coming into play, breaking an item from your opponent or whatever, that's really good. I did talk about Smash. I'm still a big fan of this. It does 3 damage, whereas like Let the Storm Rage On from the new set only does 2 damage, but that one lets you draw cards. So Smash is inkable and does 3 damage. And again, Smash plus Grab Your Sword, that's a good combo to take out 5 willpower characters. Speaking of Grab Your Sword, I think it's a staple. It's super cheap now. It's like $2 a card. Definitely should pick them up if you don't have them. It's not inkable, but it's a song. It's an action. 2 damage to all of your opponent's characters. Gets around Ward and can take out stuff like Prince John as well. I should mention that. This card can take out Prince John, which may or may not see a lot of play. Can also take out the new, not Cinderella, Snow White. Takes out Snow White, who might be played in like 7 Dwarves decks or something, right? And there's a whole bunch of other stuff this card can just, you know, take out. But super good card. Definitely throw it in your Steel decks. And then finally, Beast's Mirror. I still think Beast Mirror should be included in Steel decks because you might run out of cards, and Beast Mirror is going to help you with that. If you are playing a Whole New World, you might not need Beast Mirror, but a Whole New World is like really expensive, right? It's like $8 or $9 a card. And again, just let your opponent play it. Let your opponent refill your hand. You can play stuff like Beast Mirror to help you draw cards. And you know what? If you're playing something like Amethyst, you can have card draw there. If you're playing Amber, lots of card draw there. Actually, all the colors now have some pretty solid card draw. You're probably going to be doing okay. But I still think this inkable item for only 2 ink is still really good. But overall, yeah, that is my list of staple cards for each color. If you're going to buy some singles, like you're not sure what to build for your deck, again, these cards make up a very good like core like support package for your deck, right? So then you can kind of expand on these cards and then start to build like whatever you want. Like for Amber, you can play Stitch Rockstar, right? We're rocking the little Stitch. Let's play Stitch Rockstar. We have stuff like Simba to protect him. We have Be Our Guest, which can help find more characters. And now we can add like smaller characters if we want to combo with our Stitch Rockstar. So, and you know, that's just an example, but it maybe if not, maybe we're playing more Amber Sapphire, you're going to play some healing. Well, we got the 1-drop Stitch because maybe our opponent doesn't know that we're not playing Stitch Rockstar. And they're going to focus on this little Stitch and maybe try to take him out, which will protect our other characters. Hades will allow us to get back any of our other like key unit characters. Maybe like we are playing Rapunzel gifted with healing and she gets banished or whatever. Hades will allow us to get her back so then we can replay her. Be Our Guest will help us find our princess characters or our stuff like Grand Poppy or 5-cost Rapunzel or whatever. to help us, you know, with our core strategy. And of course, Simba is going to protect all of our characters with his, you know, cheap cost and his bodyguard feature. And we can get our strategy off a little safer because, again, Simba's going to be here to at least take one hit. And so, again, that's just kind of an example of like what these cards do. You can just throw them into like any deck of this color and then add other things, other colors, other cards to help make that strategy, right? And that's my philosophy. That's how I feel. And that's how I go about deck building for the first set. Like all of these cards here, I would instantly add them to the deck of that color and then work from there. Now there might be some stuff like Grandma Tala I don't add to every Sapphire deck, right? Or maybe something like well, actually I added Beast Hard-Headed to like every deck. Actually, I think that's really about it. It's probably just Grandma Tala, maybe not add to every single one. But I still like, I think she's good enough to at least say, hey, you probably should pick up Grandma Tala, right? There is a new card in the new set that for 2 more ink, it's uninkable, but has higher stats and does the same thing where when he's banished, he goes into your inkwell, but he's not inkable. So Grandma Tala kind of has that on him. Or at least if you draw Grandma Tala, you can at least ink her. So anyway, again, these are staples. You're looking to build these colors, pick up these cards first, and then kind of go from there. And that's just my approach, you know, my approach to singles or whatever for the first set. I think these are core. Oh, and you can see here that if you picked up everything, it'd be $100. Roughly speaking, about $100. And that's including stuff like Maui, Let It Go. We got Grab Your Sword. Even a couple super rares like Aladdin and Robin Hood and Genie. Looking pretty good. That's not terrible, right? If you buy a box, you're not going to get anywhere close to this, right? I got 2 of every common in my box. I got 2 boxes. So in order for me to get a playset of all the commons, I needed 2 boxes. And I didn't get a playset of all the uncommons. I got 3. Some of them I did get 4, thanks to like foil cards, right? But I needed to pick up, you know, I needed to trade for other uncommons. So you can spend $300 like on 2 boxes and not get all of this, right? But now for, you know, a third of that cost, you could buy all of these if you wanted to, and have staples for future decks, right? Or you can just play like Amber and Amethyst, spend barely anything, right? And then maybe you can pick up like Stitch Rockstar, who's only like $8 or so now, and play like cheaper characters and just kind of rush the field. That's a fun strategy. So it just depends, right? Maybe you want to play Emerald and Amethyst. You add all these cards in here, and then maybe you want to add, you know, some other things. Maybe you pick up Olaf, and you pick up Megara. There's some new cards to pick up. You can do Merlin Rabbit, Merlin Goat, Arthur if you want, you know, etc., etc. So again, I'm just showing these are core cards. You throw them into the deck, and then you can add other cards to fill out like a more in-depth strategy, right? So that's what I do. I like all these cards. I hope you do too. You can pick them up on like TCG Player or eBay or something, but you know, don't be crazy. Don't spend too much, right? Don't spend a lot of money on like crazy prices or something. You don't need to do that, right? Prices will go down. There's no official quote-unquote organized play right now. So I mean, if you're just going to League or something and just having fun, I've had a lot of fun playing like a common uncommon deck at League. It's super fun. A lot of people just have starter decks now, or like upgraded starter decks, especially at my league, because everyone's a bit more casual. There are a few players who do travel to tournaments, and I try to bring a more updated deck in case I play against somebody like that. But I still just have fun playing like commons and uncommons, or like if there's somebody new, I'll play like a starter deck with them, you know, etc., etc. So it just depends on what you want to do. Have some fun, right? But if you're looking into a more competitive nature, or you want your decks to be a little more consistent or something, pick up these staples, and then, you know, fill in the rest of your deck with whatever you want to do. So anyway, that's enough rambling. I think this is pretty good. I appreciate you sticking out and listening to me talk. It means a lot. You stay safe out there, make good decisions, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.